Welcome to today's video. I have some really exciting projects coming up in the near future, but to better understand them we need to talk about my personal garden railroad history. So that's what we're gonna do today. Let's get right into it. So this is spring of 2011. You can see me, obviously a lot younger than now, and you can see the first bit of track I laid in my parents' garden. At that time we had a little celebration at home, and I used my garden railroad to transport some barbecue sausages from the barbecue to the people. So that was basically the start of the hobby for me. A few months later, I already started to build my first own layout in the garden of some family friends of ours. And as you can see, I built up a nice station area and the first few meters of track. And in the background you can see a little garden shed which I used to house all the electronics. This is the station area from another perspective. I built a little rock wall to retain all the ballast of the tracks. Here you can see my favorite part of the layout. I had two 90-degree bends in some wonderful nature, and I really enjoyed running my trains through that. This is the second station area of the layout and also the end of the layout. It is around about 80 meters away from the first station area, and you can see the first train which did some test runs along the single track. Now all these pictures are made right after the construction of the layout, and I noticed later on that I had some major maintenance issues. For example, the grass was growing like crazy and I had no way to control it. And also I had a lot of trees around and above the layout, and all the falling leaves in the autumn made maintaining this layout very difficult. So eventually I pretty much lost some interest at this layout and some major changes had to happen. This picture was taken in 2014, and if you still remember, I had this layout which was crazy hard to maintain and I lost the interest. So at that time, a friend of mine, which had a really nice layout since 2006, he offered me to build kind of a addition to his layout. So I jumped on that opportunity, ripped out my old layout, and in this picture you can see all the tracks and switches and bits and pieces which I brought over to my friend's layout to build the addition. So that's where we are at the next picture. There we go. This is at my friend's place, who offered me to build an addition to his layout, and we are looking at the future station area. In this picture you can see the raw construction of the station area. We built a platform in the hillside and laid out the station area. This is another perspective of the station area on the right hand side, still under construction, and the first few meters of railway line on the left hand side. If you notice, we built a very steep gradient. I think it was 14%, and that is way too much. With the knowledge of today, I wouldn't build more than 3 to 4% of gradient on my line. But at that time I didn't know, so we built it that way and I had to learn the hard way. Going forward, we had to build a lot of retaining walls, and this is the construction of one of the retaining walls. We had to clear a lot of brush to construct the railway line any further. This is the place where my part of the layout will connect to the already existing part of my friend's layout, and you can see I poured a foundation for a upcoming bridge. There you can see 2 out of 3 bridge foundations which I poured out of concrete. And in this picture you can see the bridge on the foundations. It consists of 2 parts which are both 4 meters long. And this is another perspective of the bridge. A little bit later on, the track is already laying on the bridge, and in front of the bridge we built a little platform area for some hikers to get around. We also installed this phone to communicate with the dispatcher in the signal box, and we have such phones in every single station area of the layout. Here you can see the finished station area, which I showed you earlier under construction. I added a lot of people and some lights, and yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. This is another perspective of the station building. We also have a little freight area. After several months of construction, we started to run the first trains on the new part of the layout, and this was all still in 2014. Earlier on I talked about the very steep gradients we had to tackle on this line, and at the end of 2015 I decided to install rack rails to cope with the problem of the steep line. And here you can see my first rack rail locomotive, which tackles the gradient just fine with one of the freight cars I bought recently. In early 2016, my friends and I started a mega project in rebuilding the main station on the entire layout. So this is the station area of Rolfhausen. It was first built in 2006, and on the left you can see the before picture. So we started to reconstruct the station area completely, add some more tracks, and on the right hand side you can see the finished product at the end of 2016. We not only rebuilt the station area outside, but also built a completely new signal box which fits all our needs. Along with the new signal box we had to cope with a lot of wires, so I built this distribution box to get them all sorted. So fast forward a couple of years, in early 2019 it was finally time to have some changes on the layout. We have had a lot of problems. The trains couldn't pass the steep gradients on this part of the layout, so I started reconstructing it. In this picture you can see a spiral I planned to get rid of some of the steepness. In the summer of 2019 I have had a really solid plan how I needed to reconstruct this part of the layout to get rid of the steep gradient. But before I tear everything apart, I decided to have a last train ride on the line. So here you can see the last train which ever passed this bridge. Shortly afterwards the construction work started. We removed the 8-meter long bridge and we built a spiral with a tunnel to get rid of the steep gradient. Here you can see that one spiral wasn't enough, so we built a second one. Following the two spirals we built a new bridge, and in the far background you can see the old station area which will get rebuilt after all. There you go, this is the rebuilt station area. It is a little bit smaller than before, but we have installed some signals and we have installed a new platform area, and I think it looks pretty nice. This is a close-up of the platform area, and I constructed the platform out of steel. After a few weeks it got some rust on it, and now it looks very natural and I like the looks of it, so I will do that in the future. Part of the new station was this signal bridge, which I built from scratch. Here you can see the signal bridge when it is installed. This is our main signal box, which I showed you earlier in this video. And during the reconstruction we added signals to two station areas, which haven't had one before. And now we have in the upper left corner a computer screen which let us control the signals at these two stations. So there you go, that's 11 years of my Garden Railroad history, and if you like to know what's coming up in the future, stay tuned to this channel, like, subscribe, and I hope we will see us in the next one. So until then, bye.